You don't ever expect to, go into a situation where you're going to be abused when you're just in the normal situations. And that's just the difference. When you're in a normal situation, you can make the same choices and they can turn out fine.
This is like a story that has, been around for a while in the news. And, but I know you just recently decided to kind of open up about this, right?
Yes, it was after Jeffrey Epstein's death that I started to think about, kind of what happened to me. It was something I had suppressed for many, many years. So after the death, kind of you're able to speak about someone of that magnitude, right? After they're gone. So
now, did you
kind of how it started for me?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I know, did you feel like some type of fear too? I know some people, fear coming out about something like that and talking about that.
Absolutely. You definitely don't want to. First of all, you're confused about what happens. You don't really know how to eloquently describe things without maybe getting into trouble. There's some other powerful people involved. You don't really want to say anything. Shame and embarrassment of being involved. You just don't want to talk about it. But it just happened for some reason when I saw that he died on the TV screen. It was just something that just released in me. It was almost like, wait a second, let me figure out what happened to me. I want answers.
Right.
So I went on this journey of finding answers. And the only way to do that was to start reaching out to other survivors that had the same experiences.
And that's amazing. Now, how did you end up meeting him?
So I was a fashion model. I'd been involved in the business since I was a teenager. And that was like the height of modeling, and all the girls wanted to be a model right in the 90s. So late 90s, I started working with an agency in Belgium. That's where I graduated high school. And I was just so enamored with the business. I would go to other cities in Europe and then move to Miami and LA. And then I found my way to New York City, late 1999. And I was working with a really great agency. And I booked a really cool job that I was really excited about. Flew to Tortola in the British West Indies. And then from there, I was shooting the cover of a magazine and a spread. And one of the other models there, a beautiful Polish girl, had invited me on her day off to go to an island where her friend lived, and just said, this man is really wonderful. He's really generous and really good, loves models, and just didn't seem like, just a normal kind of thing models did, being invited to
a party,
cool things like that. So I agreed, and I went over to the island, and everything was fine. We had a really great time and enjoyed the experience, playing in the pool, the ocean, and that's where I met Jeffrey Epstein.
And then from there, I guess when did things start to kind of take a different type of turn?
Well, it was after quite a few hours of hanging out there and having a wonderful dinner, getting to know the other two girls that were there. Jeffrey paid a lot of attention to me, asked me so many questions, made me feel like, wow, I feel kind of special here. This man taking the time to spend with me and get to know me. And I had lived in Europe, and I'd spoken about living in Oxford, England, growing up as a child. And he had said to me, do you want to meet a prince? And so I met a man on the island that day that he described as the prince. And so, he was kind of like building this dream kind of environment, meeting a prince, beautiful island, beautiful people. And I care about you and I find you interesting. Let me find out more about you. So I just get really in that day. And then it wasn't until the evening when, there was a knock on the door and by one of the other young girls that was there and said that Jeffrey was ready for his massage. And that's kind of when everything took a little bit of a darker turn. And, I basically had to go into the room and get him a massage, which I, kid and didn't really know. Early 20s, not really kid, but, I just never done anything like that before. And had been trapped on the island, I wasn't quite sure what to do or how to handle it. So I ended up kind of going through that with the other girl that was there.
And that's scary too, because like I said, you're on this island, you don't really know, you're kind of like in that position, and now you don't really know the people that well, Yeah,
I was like, what is going on here? Wasn't expecting that. Who expects that? You don't ever expect to, go into a situation where you're going to be abused when you're just in the normal situations. And that's just the difference. When you're in a normal situation, you can make the same choices and they can turn out fine. Most of us make these choices all the time to hang out with people that we don't know well. But when you're with a predator, it's just different. So the manipulation and the grooming and all this stuff that was introduced was very new to me and very kind of exciting. And that's kind of the allure, right? You feel comfortable with this person until it takes a darker turn, until they kind of get what they want out of you. And that's kind of where things escalated that evening.
And now, was it just that evening, I guess, did did you have any more experiences that you had with them, or that was kind of left at that? Or
Well, it was left at that. And I was very disgusted and ashamed and kind of didn't talk about it for months. But Jeffrey and his team, remember, with Jeffrey Epstein, he had a team of women secretaries working for him that called consistently, persistently every week to all the young girls in New York, all the beautiful young actresses. It's very different from the girls in Florida who were a couple years younger. And Ghislaine was helping to find those girls that came from a harder, tougher background. The women in New York, 18 to 24 years old, were all very intelligent, very beautiful models, actresses, TV personalities, very ambitious women. And Jeffrey very much like young, ambitious, intelligent women. So those secretaries would work day and night calling these young girls. And I would just happen, because I met him on the island, to be one of them. And they would call me all the time to go and meet with him. And I never wanted to. I wanted to be nothing to do with that man. But Jeffrey had remembered something he had asked me on the island that day, was my ambitions and goals, that most men don't ask you, right? But he did. And, he had asked me what my biggest goal was at that time. And I said, I really want to be a Ford model. I had been turned down by Ford models when I was 16 and then again at like 20 last year. And so I had traveled and worked and went to Cape Town and went to Greece and started building, my career. And he called me up one day, 4 months after I'd met him. And he said, I remember that you said that you wanted to become a Ford model. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, I know Katie Ford and she's a good friend of mine. I'd love to send you over to meet with her. Told her about you. And she said, yeah, bring her over. So that was it for me. Just got ready and was like, oh my gosh, thank you. This is awesome. Like putting out of my mind what happened on the island because, maybe he wants to make it up to me. Maybe he cares about me. Maybe I was wrong. Right. So, I just got all ready and I didn't even think about any of that. I was just like, oh my gosh, I get to go meet Katie Ford. This is so exciting. So I went to go meet her and the team and, basically switched agencies, signed me up and became a Ford model just like that. So in my mind, it's like, this guy's pretty cool, pretty remarkable, right? Made something really big happen for me. Like the girl on the island said, he's amazing. He's awesome. He does these big things for you. So she was right.
That dream came true. Exactly. So you're seeing somebody who's like making the things that you know what I mean? And that they care about you. And I think that's the way, I guess, like these people operate like that. And that is that part of why you wanted to kind of come out with your story is to help other people recognize this.
Yes. Tabitha, because here's the thing. The people don't understand what grooming is. I was groomed. He was a master manipulator and groomer. He knew exactly what he was doing. It wasn't like, oh, she's stupid, or why didn't you make a better choice? Or how could you do that? A lot of people say that, but you have to understand it. You're going to understand the survivors, the victims. We're not victims. We're survivors. We survived, these type of very powerful men who are really looking to hurt and abuse you. It's the sadistic thing about it. They get off on it. And it's not okay. As you see with Sean Combs, Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, Larry Nassar, hundreds of victims, hundreds. Not talking about them doing it once or twice. So I wanted to have the survivors on my show talk about, hey, let's talk about our stories. We're not going to glorify the predator, but we're going to talk about what happened to us. And we are going to educate. We are going to empower other women, people, because it happens to boys too.
Yep.
We're going to empower you to speak out and tell your story because you know what? There's nothing to be ashamed about. I'm done being ashamed of it, and I'm actually done with people saying to me, why'd you stay so long? And they need to understand that survivors, when they go through things like this, for some whatever reason, we're vulnerable and we attract more trauma into our lives. And until we start speaking out, this is what I learned in the last 4 years. Until you start speaking out, then you let go, slowly let go of the trauma where you heal and you're able to make better decisions and not be vulnerable anymore and come into your power and have these boundaries. And now you're not going to mess with me anymore. Oh, I can sniff out this predator now. You maybe will sniff me out that I've had trauma and pain, but now I know how to have boundaries now. And I know how to say, okay, this situation is not safe. I'm not going into it. Or I don't trust you. I'm not doing that. So we are empowering and educating people through the podcast. And that is the goal.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's like you were saying, I know that it happens to, older, teenage boys and younger boys. Because we've even heard, with younger, it was like the Corey Hames. I think that whole story, they're talking about that. And I think it's shame, they feel shame. They don't want to talk about it. And so it continues on and on and on, and people don't know what's going on. They kind of like live in that darkness, and that's great that you're putting it out there and that people can be like not afraid to say and talk about these things.
Yeah, there's so much shame that goes along with it, especially for boys, that we don't want to talk about it. I mean, you see how I still get a little emotional. And during my podcast, I've had breakdowns where you could literally see me talking in the next frame. All of a sudden, it's like I'm working my way back into that power and that strength, because it's not easy to talk. It happened 20 years ago, but you still hold it. You still hold it inside. And when you do hold it inside and you suppress it, you are manifesting horrible things happening to you, cancers and when attracting people in your life that will redo the same things to you. There's horrible things that happen when you keep it inside, when you keep any type of pain and trauma inside. But when you start to release it, when you start to let go and start to say, hey, I'm getting my power back. This happened to me. It was ugly. It wasn't good. Maybe I didn't make the right choices, but you know what? I'm not that person today. And I'm moving into this space where I'm letting it go. And as you do let it go, as you do speak out and let it go, so many wonderful things start happening. And I didn't even realize that till I started my podcast, that actually I'm healing through it, and I'm healing others through it. And as they're finding their voice, as we're empowering others, it just becomes, it's just like this power comes within you. And I started attracting all these other wonderful things happening, meeting like senators and like other survivors that are making and changing laws, advocating for themselves and others. And it has been so rewarding the last 3 months of my life doing this podcast. It's been the most rewarding time for me that I didn't even think was going to happen. I just thought I'm going to do this story. Not so sure of it. I have to do it. Something was telling me that I have to do it. So I'm just so thankful for that.
And that's amazing. Now, I know you have your dream job right now, right? In Hollywood. What are you doing now besides a podcast? I know that, and speaking.
Well, the podcast is my dream job. Yeah. So I've been in the modeling space since I was a kid, and I've been a fashion model, international, had this great career, done hundreds of TV commercials, done parts of movies and TV. I always wanted to be a model scout. I don't know. It's just a big thing for me. I actually told Eileen Ford in the year 2001 that I was going to be one of the best model scouts. And she's like, oh yeah, this is great. Never compromise on your integrity. And that was pretty good advice. So yeah, I built my own business as a model scout and manager. And I've been the scout at Industry Models in New York, and then now at Select Models in Los Angeles. But I just quit that job last week. I am no longer. I actually can say my dream job, but really my dream job is just like this stepping stone. That job was wonderful, and I loved being there and helping models build their careers and keeping them safe. But I'm in a larger, bigger mission right now. So the podcast is my dream, and that's what I'm going to focus on. And I find it a lot more rewarding.
And getting more from it. Now, what is the name of your podcast that you have right now?
It's called From Now On. So from now on, we are stepping into our power, right? We're reclaiming our voice. And basically every guest has their own from now on. And they fill in that statement. It's a very powerful statement, because from now on, I'm going to, and you fill it in. So that's basically what the podcast is about. At the end of every podcast, I ask every guest to finish that powerful statement. And it's different for everyone.
And is it a variety of people? What type of people do you usually have on?
I do focus on the entertainment, arts, and sports. So like I said, serial predators in entertainment, but we've had cult survivors and domestic violence, just women who have horrible stories to tell, of their survival, but also the change that they're creating today. A lot of them become therapists, doing advocacy work, but changing legislation. There's a lot of powerful women out there that go from the trauma to the triumph. And that's what I want to do.
And can make a difference, for others. That's great.
Yes.
And you also have a family. You are a single mom, and you have three sons?
Oh boy. Three boys.
Now, how old are they?
13, 15, and 17.
Okay. So yeah, they're getting teenagers. Oh my goodness. I have almost a teenager. I have a girl, but she's 12. So she doesn't.
No, it definitely changes as teenagers. And so actually now I have more time to spend on myself and focus on myself, where before it was all about them. Everything in my life was about them. So it still is, but now it's mommy time now until they get
it. Have your time to yourself.
Yeah.
And then anything else? I know the podcast is a big year. Are you doing speaking engagements and that type of thing as well? Just kind of getting out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping to, be a motivational speaker. And everyone throughout my life has always said, you're like a life coach, or everything becomes like motivational. You're always so positive. And it's true. Yeah. But I wanted people to see that, yes, that is maybe the mask I have or the facade I have, because I do have a lot of deep pain. Yeah, I do. And so I want people to understand, yes, you can still be confident and motivate people, but through that pain. Now I want to let people see that it's not always good, but I do have those moments and I do have pain. And I do want to speak, be a keynote speaker and do more motivational out there. So that's the plan.
That's amazing. I think and especially like in the entertainment industry, I was living in South Beach, right in the center of all that craziness. So I know some of and I've encountered it, and it's scary because there's even then, there was like drugging of women, like, you're sitting there at a table, thinking you're just having a nice normal evening or whatever. And the next thing you know, you're passed out, I've seen
passed out. And yes. But that, Tabitha, that's happening a lot. That's a lot. That is happening a lot now.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, early 2000s in South Beach, and that was the heyday of all the craziness. And that was definitely happening. And everyone was getting away with it then because there was no social media. Nowadays, with TikTok, everybody's speaking out.
Yeah.
And pray and beware, because your victim, the survivors, are speaking out. And that is going to make change because they're going to have a little more fear about what they can get away with.
Definitely. And if we had to wrap it up and say, so something that society can do as far as, how, like aiding and like not letting this happen in this type of, victimization, what can we do as a society, do you think, more so?
Yeah, that's good, because there's a lot of enablers out there, like we're seeing with P. Diddy right now. There's so many people that turned a blind eye and didn't do anything to help, and they saw what was happening. I mean, back in the early 2000s, I heard about P. Diddy. So it's been going on a really long time. I knew and heard about those stories. You're talking about over 20 years ago. So the enablers, they need to stop. We need to start sticking up for the victims or the people that you see that are being abused. Sticking up for them and speaking out and doing something, even if you have to go behind their backs. And, but we need to stop these predators, and that starts to be the people around them not supporting that.
Not letting it happen. Exactly. Standing up. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you'd like to say to the people listening as far as this journey and their own journees?
Yes, absolutely. Know that, you're innocent. It's not your fault. And when you do find the courage to speak up, send me an email. Love to have you on the show. And if you don't find that courage to speak up, it's okay. It takes time. It took me 15 years. It takes time.